Welcome to Voodoo Whiskey Gaming, and today I'm going to go a little off topic. It's not entirely off topic, but I'm going to be talking about video game based movies. I'm basically going to be asking why they can't make a good video game based movie and giving my opinion on it. And really, not all of them are terrible, but I mean, there's plenty of terrible ones. If you just look at like Super Mario Bros., Resident Evil, Silent Hill, Street Fighter, King of Fighters, Mortal Kombat, and so on, so on, so on. While not all of those are terrible, and you can excuse some of them for being as bad as they were because they were made in the 90s, you still can't fully excuse them. I mean, look at Super Mario Bros. It was such a fucking abomination that it made Nintendo flee from ever making another live-action movie. I could keep picking apart the video game movies that have been made, but rather than that, I'm gonna say why I think they really kind of need to stop. And my main reason for thinking they need to stop is the fact that they just don't really seem to respect the material that they're trying to turn into movies. Maybe it's a lack of understanding of how to translate video games into movies. I'm not sure, but it generally feels like they don't care that much. And I mean, anyone who gave Uwe Boll the rights to make a movie based on their game, you gotta wonder if they cared at all. Because after watching his first two, if I was any of the companies, I would have sued the crap out of the guy to get the rights to their titles back. I mean, everything he made was crap because he doesn't care about movies or video games. Or else he would probably try to actually make something decent, which he hasn't. One of the other major problems seems to be translating an interactive media to a disassociated media where the individual isn't playing it. They're just sitting and watching. I think one of the other major problems is translating the characters. Finding a good live-action match for them. Because gamers already know what that character sounds like, what they look like, and what their personality is. And I think video games have a problem in that area that both comic books and books don't have. Comic books, you know what the character looks like, to a certain extent. But when the artists are switching out, the character always changes a bit. So it's a little more lenient, I think, when translating it to movies. It's easier to find an actor who fits that more general description simply because the art changes. So long as they do a good job capturing the personality, it's not going to be as big of a problem. With books, it's even easier because really all you have to do is mimic a very general description of the character and their personality. There's no vocal element, and comic books have that advantage as well. The vocal element is completely up to the reader. Whereas in video games, we know what they sound like because there's already a voice attached. So then when you're watching the movie and you're seeing the character, generally it doesn't look that much like the character, with a completely different voice, it starts to pull you away from the experience. At least that's how I feel when I see it. If I had to sit down and pick out a franchise that most encapsulates my problem with video game-based movies, it would probably be the Resident Evil franchise. I'm not going to include the first one because I think the first movie did a pretty good job because it wasn't trying to steal the game, basically. If you look at Resident Evil 2, which was okay, I mean, they brought in Jill. I wasn't totally okay with that, but they did a good job visually representing her, where I don't think they did a very good job representing her character. And that continued throughout the franchise. They introduced Claire Redfield, who really didn't behave a lot like Claire Redfield, or really look much like Claire Redfield. They brought in Chris Redfield, looked nothing like Chris, and behaved nothing like Chris. Then, I mean, they just made it worse the further they went. Ada Wong didn't act at all like Ada Wong. They did an okay job capturing the appearance, not too good. Leon was even worse. I mean, wow. They couldn't have botched his character any worse than they did. One of the other problems seems to be that they feel the need to change things that don't need to be changed, like the characters' personalities. Or in the case of the Silent Hill movies, where at times they're literally taking straight from the game, but then they change weird things that don't need to be changed. I don't get it, I don't get why they do it, but it doesn't make for a good product at the end of the day. Unfortunately, this problem also goes both ways, in that whenever they try and make a video game based on a movie, it doesn't turn out well, but that's for completely different reasons. That's just cash grab crap right there. They're like, oh, hey, this movie's coming out. Let's make a quick, horrible game because they don't bother to put any time or effort into it. Obviously, that was a little side note. Back to the main topic. The secret, I think, is that they need to make movies kind of like Silent Hill 2 the game was made. Silent Hill 2 wasn't directly tied to Silent Hill 1 or 3. It still fit within the canon of the world that was built, but it was a spin-off story. And I think that's what movies need to do. That way they can create their own characters in these situations, and then you're not knocking off the video game. I think one of the other ways to fix it is actually bother to hire some decent directors. Directors who have had a great track record. And writers who actually care about the subject. Until studios start doing that, they're just wasting their money making these video game-based movies because they spend a ton of money, and I doubt they're really making that much profit on it. To go along with that, I think the game developers need to quit selling the rights to make these movies. They should be doing what Capcom did with Resident Evil Degeneration and Damnation, or what Square Enix did with Final Fantasy VII Advent Children. Those were good movies, and they fit within the world, and they actually did an amazing job to further the stories built by those games. Until changes like those are made, we're just going to end up with more crappy movies based on games we love. In the comments below, why don't you tell me what your favorite video game-based movie is? Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button, and if you like what I'm doing in general, subscribe. Have a good one.